My wife's cheating. The text came at 2:17 p.m. on a Tuesday. An ordinary Tuesday. I remember because I had just finished lunch at my desk, the same turkey sandwich I'd packed every Tuesday for the past decade. Sarah used to joke about my predictability. 10 years of marriage and I could set my watch by your habits, she'd say with that smile that made the corners of her eyes crinkle. The same smile I fell in love with all those years ago. The text wasn't even meant for me. Her phone was on the counter that morning while she showered and I noticed it light up. I wasn't snooping, I've never been that husband. But there it was, a preview notification from someone named Mike from work that read simply, * last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again too, *. The rest was hidden, but it didn't need to be said. Sometimes you just know, like a sudden cold wind that hits you before you even see the storm clouds. In that moment, standing in our kitchen with her lavender body wash scenting the air from the bathroom down the hall, I knew. Are you all right, James? You look pale. My coworker Diane touched my shoulder, snapping me back to the present, to my desk, my half-eaten sandwich, and the email I'd been staring at without reading for God knows how long. Yeah, fine. Just thinking. I forced a smile. Diane nodded and returned to her cubicle. I picked up my phone and stared at it. What was I supposed to do now? Call her? Text her? Hey honey, quick question, are you sleeping with someone named Mike? I almost laughed at the absurdity of it. 10 years. 10 years of building a life together. The apartment we could barely afford in our 20s. The house we bought 3 years ago in that quiet neighborhood we both loved. The nursery we painted yellow, neutral, she insisted, even though we hadn't been blessed with a child yet. 10 years of Christmas mornings and summer vacations and holding each other through family funerals and job losses. 10 years reduced to a text notification. I left work early that day. Told my boss I was feeling sick, which wasn't a lie. My stomach churned as I drove home, my mind racing with questions. How long had it been going on? Was it just physical or something more? Did she love him? Did she ever really love me? Our house looked the same as always when I pulled into the driveway. The rose bushes I'd planted last spring were blooming nicely. The mailbox flag was up, I'd forgotten to put it down again this morning. Such mundane details suddenly seemed important, as if cataloging them might somehow keep my world from completely unraveling. Sarah's car wasn't in the driveway. She wouldn't be home for hours. Tuesday was her late day at the marketing firm. Tuesday was also apparently her day with Mike. I sat in our living room, surrounded by the life we built. Photos from our wedding. The ugly lamp her mother gave us that she insisted on keeping. The throw blanket we bought during our trip to Maine 4 years ago. Every object suddenly felt like a prop in a play where I'd misunderstood my role. When the front door finally opened at 6:43 p.m., I was still sitting in the same spot, staring at nothing. Sarah walked in, her face lighting up with surprise. James, you're home early. She set down her purse and keys in their usual spot by the door. Everything about her was so normal. Her voice, her movements, her smile. How could she be so normal when nothing would ever be normal again? Who's Mike? The words came out before I could think better of them. Her smile faltered for just a moment. So briefly I might have missed it if I hadn't been studying her face like it was a language I was trying desperately to translate. Mike? From work. She slipped off her shoes. He's new in the creative department. Why? You got a text from him this morning. About last night. There it was, that split-second hesitation. The subtle shift in her eyes before she composed herself. Oh, we had a client dinner last night. The whole team went. She moved toward the kitchen. Did you eat? I can make something. The text said it was amazing and he couldn't wait to see you again. She stopped walking. Her back was to me, shoulders suddenly tense. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. James. When she turned around, her eyes were filled with tears. And that's when I knew for certain. The next hours passed in a blur of confessions and tears. 6 months. It had been going on for 6 months. Mike was younger. But that's not why, she insisted, as if that detail mattered. There had been problems between us for years, she said. We'd grown apart. We'd stopped talking, really talking. We'd become roommates instead of lovers. I listened, feeling like I was floating outside my body, watching this scene play out from somewhere near the ceiling. Was she right? Had we grown apart? I thought we were comfortable, content in the life we'd built together. When had comfort become calm? Placency? I never meant to hurt you, she said, a phrase so cliché I almost laughed. But you did, I replied simply. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I know. That night, I slept in the guest room, if you can call staring at the ceiling until dawn, sleeping. I listened to her crying through the wall and felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just a vast, echoing emptiness. In the morning, she was gone before I got up. A note on the counter said she was staying with her sister for a few days to give us space to think. As if thinking would change what had happened. As if space could heal the wound that had been torn open between us. I called in sick to work and spent the day wandering our house like a ghost. In our bedroom, I opened her closet and breathed in her scent, that familiar mix of perfume and something uniquely Sarah. Even now, part of me ached for her. How pathetic was that? I found myself in the yellow nursery, sitting on the floor with my back against the wall. We talked about starting a family this year. Not getting any younger, I joked, on my 35th birthday. She'd smiled and kissed me and said, soon? Was that a lie too? Or had she already been calculating her exit strategy? Days passed in a strange limbo. Sarah would come by when she knew I was at work to pick up clothes or other necessities. We communicated primarily through texts, brief, practical messages devoid of emotion. Friends called, sensing something was wrong, but I couldn't bring myself to explain. Saying it out loud would make it real in a way I wasn't ready to face. My father called on Sunday. You missed our golf game, he said, concern evident in his voice. Sorry, Dad. Not feeling well. The lie came easily now. James, he said, his voice softening, what's going on, son? And suddenly I was telling him everything, the words pouring out like a dam had broken. When I finished, there was silence on the line. I'm sorry, he finally said. Not advice, not platitudes, just acknowledgement of my pain. It was exactly what I needed. What do I do now, Dad? He sighed. That's something only you can decide. But whatever you choose, you'll get through this. You're stronger than you think. 2 weeks after that fateful text, Sarah asked to meet at a coffee shop, neutral territory. She looked tired, shadows under her eyes matching my own. I've ended it with Mike, she said after we'd sat down with our drinks. Completely. If there's any chance for us. Is that what you want? I asked, studying her face. A chance for us. She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. I made a terrible mistake, James. The biggest mistake of my life. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I'm hoping that in time. I looked at this woman I'd loved for so long. The woman I'd built my life around. The woman who had shattered my trust so completely. I don't know if I can ever trust you again, I said honestly. I know. She reached across the table for my hand. After a moment's hesitation, I let her take it. But I want to try to earn it back. If you'll let me. The counselor's office was bland and beige, designed to be inoffensive. Sarah and I sat on opposite ends of a couch that felt too small and too large all at once. Dr. Melissa Keaton looked between us with professional neutralness. Marriage counseling isn't about assigning blame, she explained. It's about understanding patterns and rebuilding trust. Sarah nodded eagerly. I nodded because it seemed expected. James, how are you feeling about being here today? I considered the question. Honestly? I don't know if this can be fixed. Sarah flinched beside me. That's a valid feeling, Dr. Keaton assured me. Infidelity creates a trauma response. The foundation of your relationship has been shaken. Shaken, I repeated. More like demolished. Perhaps, she acknowledged. But foundations can be rebuilt, sometimes stronger than before. The question is whether you both want to do that work. I looked at Sarah, really looked at her. Behind the makeup and careful composure, I could see her fear. Her regret. Her hope. I don't know yet, I said finally. But I'm here. The weeks that followed were some of the hardest of my life. Sarah moved back home after our third counseling session. We slept in separate bedrooms. We talked more honestly than we had in years, painful, raw conversations that often ended in tears. Hers, sometimes mine. I learned things about our marriage I hadn't wanted to see. How I'd grown distant over the years, retreating into work and routine. How she'd felt lonely but hadn't known how to tell me. None of it excused her betrayal, but understanding the context helped in some small way. Some days I was certain we wouldn't make it. Other days, catching glimpses of the woman I fell in love with, her laugh, her kindness, her determination to make things right, I thought maybe, just maybe, we had a chance. Healing isn't linear, Dr. Keaton reminded us often. She was right. Some days felt like progress, others felt like starting from scratch. 3 months after Discovery Day, as the online support forums called it, I found myself sitting on our back porch at sunset. Sarah came outside with 2 glasses of wine, offering one to me tentatively. These small gestures still carried weight. Would I accept or reject? I took the glass. She sat in the chair beside me, not too close. I had my last session with my individual therapist today, she said. How was it? Good. Hard. She twisted her wedding ring. She'd never stopped wearing it even when she moved out. She asked me what I've learned from all this. And? Sarah looked at me, her eyes clear and direct. That I took you for granted. That I was looking for excitement instead of appreciating what we built together. That I was a coward for not telling you I was unhappy. I nodded, appreciating her honesty. What about you? She asked. What have you learned? I considered the question. That nothing is guaranteed. That relationships take work, real work, not just going through the motions. That I stopped really seeing you somewhere along the way. We sipped our wine in silence as the sun disappeared below the horizon. Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me? She asked, her voice small. I think. I paused, searching for the truth. I think I'm starting to. But trust is different from forgiveness. I know. She reached for my hand and I let her take it. I'm not giving up on us, James. Not unless you tell me to. 6 months after that Tuesday that changed everything, we went away for a weekend. Not a second honeymoon or a fresh start, just two people trying to rediscover each other away from the house filled with memories both good and painful. The cabin by the lake was small but comfortable. No cell service, no internet. Just us. We hiked during the day, cooked together in the evening. We talked about everything and nothing. Sometimes we sat in comfortable silence, something we hadn't been able to do since before. On our last night, sitting by the fire, Sarah looked at me with those eyes I'd fallen in love with so long ago. Thank you, she said simply. For what? For giving us a chance. For not giving up when you had every right to. I took her hand, feeling the familiar contours of it in mine. I'm not making any promises about where we end up, I said honestly. But I'm glad we're trying. She nodded, understanding. One day at a time. One day at a time, I agreed. Later that night, for the first time since finding out about her affair, I held her as we fell asleep. It wasn't forgiveness, not completely. It wasn't forgetting. But it was something like hope, fragile and tentative but real. A year has passed since that text message that brought my world crashing down. Our marriage isn't what it was before, perhaps it never will be. But in some ways it's more authentic than it ever was. We no longer take each other for granted. We no longer hide behind comfortable routines or unspoken expectations. Trust grows back slowly like a garden after a devastating storm. Some days I still find myself checking her phone when she's in the shower. She leaves it unlocked now, an open book. Some nights I still wake with that cold feeling of dread, wondering if history will repeat itself. But more and more I find myself choosing to believe in us again. In her. In the new foundation we've built on the ashes of what came before. Do you regret staying? My father asked me recently over our resumed Sunday golf games. I considered the question seriously. No, I said finally. It would have been easier to walk away. To start fresh with someone new. But this rebuilding, relearning each other, it's taught me more about myself, about love, about forgiveness than anything else could have. He nodded, satisfied with my answer. You know, your mother and I went through something similar, years before you were born. I stared at him, shocked. You never told me that. He shrugged. It wasn't your burden to carry. But I want you to know the choice you made to try again? It takes courage. Real courage. Last night, Sarah and I sat in the yellow nursery, a room that had come to represent all our broken dreams. We'd been avoiding it for months, keeping the door closed as if it contained our pain. I think it's time we decided what to do with this room, I said. She looked at me, cautious hope in her eyes. What are you thinking? I'm thinking. I took her hand. I'm thinking maybe it's time to try for that family we talked about. If you still want that. With me. Tears filled her eyes. Are you sure? Really sure? I nodded. I can't promise I'll never think about what happened. I can't promise there won't be hard days ahead. But I don't want to let what we lost define what we might still have. She leaned against me, her head on my shoulder. I love you, James. I never stopped, even when I lost my way. I love you too, I said, and meant it. Not with the naive certainty of our early years, but with something deeper, something that had been tested by fire and somehow survived. As we sat there together, planning a future neither of us had been sure we'd have, I realized something important. Forgiveness isn't a destination you reach once and for all. It's a choice you make over and over again. A choice to believe that people can change, that wounds can heal, that love, real love, can endure even the deepest betrayal. I don't know what tomorrow will bring. None of us do. But today I choose hope. I choose us. And for now that's enough.